Cross Politic begins in 3, 2, 1.
I'm a heart that breaks for a dying city.
Stop cursing your future.
Is not true.
For all intents and purposes, I am a woman.
No government, no political system has ultimate supremacy. Jesus is King of Kings, and it's about time our nation return in humble submission to his lordship.
You are not protecting women. You are authorizing the destruction of 500,000 little women every year.
I didn't start it. But sir, with all due respect, that's the argument of a 5-year-old. I didn't start it.
Right, when the Spirit comes upon people, they go to war, they go to battle, and the enemies of God are driven back and they're slaughtered.
You are listening to Cross Politic with Gabe Wrench, the Water Boy, Pastor Toby Sumter, and the Chocolate Knox.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket.
Hello, y'all. Welcome to Cross Politic. This is not sure what David's trying to do here, but we are coming at you from Moscow, Idaho. What's going on here?
We have Pastor Toby back. What do you mean? Welcome back.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Hey, guys.
I forgot you even was a part of the show.
I really missed you guys.
We barely missed you.
Barely?
Hey, man, you know you can't play all your cards at one time.
Oh,
no,
guys.
no. Ease them back into it.
You ease them back. I mean, you missed a little bit.
I was doing some cross-politic evangelism, actually.
Oh, so you got to do it like that.
I went on a trip, and I took some cross-politic, fight, laugh, feast,
coffee.
Sovereignty roast.
Yes.
Did you really?
Across the country to Indianapolis.
Okay.
Bloomington, actually.
Flyover country.
Yo, and I went there, and I gave it to some friends there.
And they loved it.
They loved it.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, they loved it.
Well, in that case.
In fact, that's like the second time I've ever gotten to try our own coffee. One time,
you like it?
Oh, it was good. Yeah, I only got to fly across the country to try our coffee.
That's an expensive cup.
Thanks. Yeah, it was worth it.
Yeah,
it was worth it.
Well, welcome back, man.
Hey, yeah, no, it was great. It was very refreshing. I spent 5 days with my wife. It was just great. We flew out on Valentine's Day.
You didn't miss us at all then. You didn't miss us one bit.
No. Okay. Well, you're right. I lied. You're right. I didn't think about you at all.
The time with your wife, man.
Yeah.
No, it was awesome. It was really refreshing.
And you went to a pastor's conference.
Went to a pastor's conference at Clear Note Church
nice.
in Bloomington. Pastor Tim Bailey there. It was on actually pastoring in a post-Obergefell world. So it was on all like the sexual confusion and
we got to get some nuggets from that conference.
Oh man, I'm fixing as
you owe me some contact info,
as Gabe would say.
That's right.
I'm fixing
to get you some content
to get you some contact information because there's some gold there that we need to get. And I want to give a little shout out. My wife and I stayed with the Killingsworths, the family there. Jody Killingsworth is the worship pastor at Clear Note Church. He's also the lead singer of My Soul Among Lions, which is a band that is currently working on setting all of the Psalms to music.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
It's like a folk sound.
Yeah.
They have the first 10 Psalms out already, their first album.
It's on iTunes. You can get it right now. I own a copy.
And they have the second volume, I got.
Oh, you do?
I got.
Did they give one to the studio?
They gave one
That's what we care
Give
about.
one to me.
Oh.
And you didn't bring it so we can play it?
I did. Maybe we can pull it out. It's on my laptop.
Oh, and your laptop is closed on the desk. Okay, we're going to pull that up for the next segment.
We'll pull it up for the next segment.
Definitely going to pull
this
that
is
up.
Psalms 11 through 20, and it's awesome. Have you been listening to the first one?
I have. Yeah, I really enjoy the first one.
They're just, it's just straight text. It's just meditating on the Psalms. My wife and I have been so blessed by it, and these guys are just solid. I just love seeing God working in them.
We should have them on the show.
Well, I'm on the show, and we'll put a link out to their album.
But get My Soul Among Lions, their Psalms
available on iTunes.
iTunes, yes. Anyways, it was so refreshing. So a little shout out. Now since we know Jody, when we're playing it around the house, sometimes it's kind of loud. My wife will be like, just call out to the kids and be like, "Hey, can you guys turn down Jody?" It's a little love for.
I just want you to know too, your vacation time is done.
Yeah,
like you don't have any more vacation time.
You cannot do that to us again.
No,
you're done. You only had 2 days.
I heard that you guys talked about me behind my back.
Nope.
You got to listen to the episodes.
I said nothing.
No, I did try. So, you usually bring in our segments, especially on the second and third. Right. And I tried to sound like you when I brought in the segment. Yeah.
You let him do that,
I was like, welcome back.
No, hey.
Okay.
hey. Don't get us in trouble now. He's got a, I don't want to hurt us.
It was fun.
Welcome back, bro. We're happy to have you back.
It's great to be back. And
so let's get over to some cross-politic news.
Oh.
Okay. And speaking of the Obergefell decision, we got a couple kind of clips around that. First, you guys probably don't follow the WNBA.
What's that?
I mean, that's the National Women's
Lesbian Basketball League.
You know where I'm going with that. There's Candace Wiggins, who'd been in the WNBA since 2008, so been there for a while. She retired this last year. She wanted to keep. She had a couple more years in her to play, but she retired. And the big thing that she named, she said, this is an ESPN. This is all over this past week, but she said about 98% of the league was lesbian, and that she was she used the term bullied for being straight, and so she said it just sucked the soul out of her, and that's why she left the WNBA this last year. And I was talking to my wife, last night about this, or maybe it's two nights ago. But one of the problems with sports, I'm totally for women in sports. My sisters played basketball growing up, and my dad coached their teams, all this stuff. But one of the problems, what happens is they want to be like men in sports, and so they masculinize basically their sport, and then they turn it into, and then you get some of these cultural results that you get, Any thoughts? Any thoughts on that?
Well, are there some? There's some sports that I don't even know if women should be playing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just some things, and some sports I'm wondering how much we should be even engaging with too. Some of them kind of bother me. I mean, as much as I like watching
golf.
The guys' skirts in golf are too high.
Croquet.
The MMA fighting stuff. When I see the women's matches come on, I just turn that off. I just can't.
Right.
I can't watch it. I just can't watch it.
It's evil.
And because of that, it's made me wonder how much of it I should be enjoying with the men too. I like to see guys fight. We agree to some terms, and everybody's fighting. And usually the men that are fighting are very gracious at the end of a match. Hey man, thank you for the fight. They know it's a business deal. Hey, thank you for paying.
Boxing.
Boxing and MMA is a little different. The damage that can be done from MMA.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's far different than that.
But most of those
boxing.
Athletes are sportsmen.
They're sport. Yeah, most of them are sportsmen. Most of them are sportsmen. I mean, you always have the one that's like, "I'm going to kill you. Right. I'm going to eat your family," and they kind of turn into Mike Tyson. But
what's the difference between women being sportsmen and MMA being evil, and men being sportsmen and MMA being maybe okay for them?
Because men were made to fight. Mm-hmm. Men were made to defend their families, defend their neighbors, and to protect and lay their lives down. They were made for that,
and so they can practice it.
And they can practice it. Mm-hmm. And women were made to give life.
Right.
They were made to be to cultivate life,
nurturers,
to be nurturers, to glorify life. They're the glory of man.
That's right.
And it's for the same reason that we should object to them being in the MMA and boxing and these other. And I think even of the many other sports, Christians should be thinking about if there's a way for this to be done in a feminine way. Then great. Praise God.
Let's go for it. Yeah.
But we can't pretend that it's just the same.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, in girls basketball, I think one of the reasons that WNBA doesn't do so good and they're trying to push a campaign is just that basketball has such a strong dominance to it. Elite players, dunking, some of them you've seen. Now, every girl that dunks now in the WNBA, I get confused if it's a guy or not at a moment. Like,
well, in our culture, it could be. If he identified,
if she's decided,
if he decided,
So it's hard to know, and it's hard for you don't want to watch it because there's a certain sort of, the sport itself demands a certain sort of masculinity to even play the game and to do well at playing the game. That to push a woman to that level of competition is turning her into a masculine person.
Right. Here's a little quote, little teaser for Pastor Tim Bailey. I was just at the conference.
Oh, that's right. This is perfect. Right?
He said this. He says, "Biology is destiny." And a rejection of your biology is a rejection of God's calling on your life. When God creates a person, male or female, He has biologically given you a calling, right? He's giving you a calling.
Yeah, yeah.
He says, I'm calling you to represent me as a woman. And that includes your biology.
Right.
You're made to be a life giver, a nurturer, and so on. And when he creates a man to be strong, to be a defender, to be a fighter, to lay his life down and sacrificially for his family and for those around him.
Right.
That's a divine calling of God. It's embedded in our biology.
Well,
and so it's not an accident though that we live in a world that is defying God, and it's defying God in the place where God has put His own image in unique ways,
right.
As a man, as a woman, and so we're in rebellion against God. So of course we're in rebellion against the biology.
Right. So we want to redefine the image.
Yeah, I'm going to make my own destiny. Yep. Right? Make my own destiny, but that's rebellion against God.
Biological denier.
Yeah, this is interesting because I just got done watching today. I don't know if you saw this, but on did you see it, Gabe?
I think you sent it to me. Was it Fox? The Fox debate?
Fox News.
Yeah.
It was Tucker Carlson talking with Zach. Is it Petkus?
I don't know.
I don't know how to say his last name.
The guy was a loser.
Gabe, you've been sucking. How do you really feel?
Man.
No, and what was crazy was they were just talking about this exact thing.
He has to come back and pick on vulnerable kids. Okay. These kids are the most vulnerable children in the country.
Slow down, Zach.
So he's talking about the transgender kids now not being able to use a transgender bathroom or using the bathroom of their choice. And he said they're the most vulnerable kids in the country. Now, I don't know about you, but I can think of a few other most vulnerable children, like the one in the womb.
Yeah. Like he cares about. Because he cares about vulnerable children.
If you're going to start caring about vulnerable children, sir, I'll take you up on that and raise you. Why don't you start a little earlier than they can go to the bathroom for themselves?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and also connected that, if he thinks they're vulnerable, which they are, so lie to him.
Right.
Right? It's like, I'm going to lie to this kid and let him think that they could be a girl, or let her think that she could be a boy. It's like, you're just lying to him.
Yeah.
Let's get to the core of the issue. Do you mind? Look, I get that I'm never going to get you to say that Obama should have done it. That's fine. Let's move from the politics to the science, because this policy has implications that go far beyond bathrooms and locker rooms. The core question is what constitutes male and female, and the implication of these
God constitutes.
Yeah, right.
But he won't say that.
No.
He'll say
Obama
science.
Put in place is that a man is someone who says he's a man, and a woman is someone who says she's a woman. You get to decide your gender. There's no biological anchor to sex anymore. It's all determined by the individual. So my obvious question for you is,
that's truth.
How do I know if a person's male or female? Is there some other absolute standard that people have to meet to be male or female?
He said absolute standard.
There's no absolutes.
Other than what they say.
One's gender identity is enough to show what gender they are. And so if you're confused about that, I mean,
he just basically paused it there. He just basically said your gender identity, how you see yourself, is what determines your biological.
But there's no reason then why you can't change throughout the day.
I want to be white today. Can I be white?
Yeah.
Can I be white?
Yeah.
Can somebody please tell the police I'm white?
Oh, I want to be black so I can get reparations.
To your level of
they ain't coming, by the way.
Enlightenment and
no. It's not about enlightenment. It's not about moral status. This is a real question because there are all kinds of institutions in American life that function on a sex-segregated basis. Women's college, sports, both professional and amateur, prisons. And so you're telling me that I can play on a women's sports team when I say I'm a woman.
What we are saying is that in this guidance with public schools, which we're and the vulnerable kids that are there, that there are specific guidelines that these teachers and these supervisors and these principals asked for in how to create safe.
Okay, but now you're going back to the first question. You just said a second.
Get him.
All right, stop right here. One of the things that he's complaining about is that Trump took away Obama's guidelines on transgender bathroom policies.
Right.
He's like, hold on. Our superintendent here in Moscow, Idaho, needs guidelines.
Yeah.
On transgender bathroom policies.
By the way, he's skirting the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
He's skirting the question.
Who's the guy that is talking sense on here?
Tucker.
Carlson.
I don't know him, but Tucker is he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And think about all the rest of the implications of this, right? It's insanity to say that truth is going to be established by what an individual thinks.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, did this rape happen? Did this murder happen?
It wasn't rape to me.
Right. No. I self-identify as innocent. Right?
Yeah.
That's where this goes, right? As I self-identify as not having been there.
So I think
doing that thing.
I think Tucker is holding his ground like he should be on this, but conservatives are not. So we were talking about this.
Yeah.
Betsy DeVos, Department Secretary of Education. Yeah. She basically said that this transgender bathroom issue is a states' right issue. It's a states' right issue. So she's punting, right? And and we talked about this. Like, if abortion's not a states' right issue, me determining if I'm a boy or a girl is not a states' right issue. It's not. Now, I'd be happy to run the play just for fun, because I think let's say if abortion became a states' right issue,
like we've talked about before.
We talked about this before. Yeah. I'd be happy to run the play and let the cultures kind of see themselves over time.
Sure.
But the problem is conservatives are not defending on this issue. They're punting to states' rights because that's all they know how to defend right now.
Well, they're punting to states' rights in hopes to be able to have a state fight against it.
Take the hit for them.
Well, to fight for it. Yeah. I mean, but in some instances, we would want states to be able to have the right to not be under the hammer of the federal government.
Absolutely.
So ultimately,
But I don't know.
I want them to answer the question, say, no, it's wrong, but the federal government is here, on this side. States' rights need to legalize or fight against it and say, no, we're not going to do this. That's their jurisdiction, and they should be saying that it's wrong.
Absolutely.
And 150 years ago, we did this with the Missouri Compromise. Right? Slaves.
Flush that out.
Issue.
Flesh that out.
Flush that out?
Flush it out.
Flush it out. That's what we said with slaves, right?
Okay.
And that was the issue. It's states can decide.
Yeah.
Right? And the new states that come in will have one free state, one slave state. And punting didn't work so well then.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
I mean, I'm against the centralization of so much. I mean, so in one sense, like the more decentralizing we can do, the better. And on the other hand, I think ultimately this is not going to end well for us.
No.
Because you can't just keep punting divisions.
That's right.
You have to have it's you either fight now or you fight later. And I read a book called The Founding Brothers, actually, by a guy named Ellis, a little while ago, and he was talking about this issue being it's in the foundation of our country. It was being fought about. The whole slave issue is being fought about at the founding of the country, and they kept on punting it, kept on thinking it was going to get better, and it never got better. And I think one of the things that I learned from that is somebody needed to throw down
right then and there,
right then and there.
Yep.
And I think because we didn't. We went and butchered ourselves.
Wow.
And we're still dealing with it.
And we're still butchering ourselves. Yeah.
When we come back on Cross Politic, the author of The Great Good Thing, Andrew Klavan, how a secular Jew...
How a Jew comes to Christ.
Yeah, how a secular Jew comes to know Christ. More with him when we come back on Cross Politic.
For 21 years and counting, New St. Andrews College has sought to obey Christ's Great Commission to disciple nations and build him a house, not just in Jerusalem, but throughout the world. Not with stones and mortar, but with living stones. We build and fight. This is the task of a Christian liberal arts college, to equip students with the tools to build and fight. And this is our joyful task as we seek to graduate leaders who shape culture through wise and victorious living. To learn more, check us out online at nsa.edu/explore.
Canon Press is a publishing house located in Moscow, Idaho. At Canon Press, we create and provide products that sketch a vision of the whole life, a whole culture, a life full of beauty, tradition, education, community, laughter, and celebration, unashamed of Christ, and sharply at odds with the values of modernity. A mature culture with the church at the center, living out the good life, one family at a time. We believe our book, audio, and visual selections reflect this exciting life that God has given us under the sun. As the wisest man said, go eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already accepted your works. CanonPress.com. Welcome back to Cross Politic. We are really excited with our guest today, Mr. Andrew Klavan. He's the author of internationally best-selling crime novels, such as True Crime, turned into a film by Clint Eastwood, Don't Say a Word, filmed by Michael Douglas, Empire of Lies. a number of other awards, novels, and so forth. I'm looking at the back of this book, The Great Good Thing, which is the thing that we're really excited about talking with Andrew today about. But he's got write-ups from Stephen King.
Wow.
New York Times, Forbes, Publisher Weekly. So, Andrew, we are really, really grateful to have you on the show today. Thanks for being on here.
Oh, thanks. It's a pleasure to be here.
Chocolate, you got to give me the book back.
Okay.
Hold on.
I'm trying to figure out, how do we get these guests? This is amazing.
He keeps stealing my book, but I wanted to start. Actually, I want to start at the end.
Which is always a good place to start when you haven't read the book.
But I just love this in your acknowledgments. Before I began this memoir, I would have said, if asked, that my work was my life. Having finished, it now seems to me that in fact my life was my work, a work assigned to me, to the author, by his author.
Oh,
the work of journeying to a true faith. I love that. I was telling you a moment ago before we started. I've really been blessed already from what I've read in the book. It's beautiful. That's just just a little snatch of it there in your acknowledgments. But talk to us a little bit and talk to our listeners a bit about how you came about to write The Great Good Thing.
Well, it started at the moment of that I realized that I should be baptized. I grew up in a Jewish household. I was an agnostic. I call it an agnostic, but I was a practicing atheist most of my life.
Yeah.
And about 5 years before I was baptized, I realized, I came to understand that there was in fact a God, and I developed a relationship with him. And I had this kind of shocking moment after 5 years of prayer when I said to God, you have changed my life. This relationship has changed my life so beautifully that I don't know how to say thank you. I don't know what I, who'm just some schmo, can do for you, or God.
Yeah.
And the words kind of came directly, immediately into my head, almost as if they were spoken there, saying, you should be baptized.
Huh.
And I immediately said, you got to be kidding me. Why would it? I mean, truly nothing was further from my mind. And because it created a lot of problems for me, problems with my family of origin. I knew it would create problems with my father. I knew it would create problems. I was working in Hollywood, writing screenplays. I knew that would create some problems.
No.
I started looking for a loophole, I started thinking, well, maybe I just made that up. Maybe it was just something that came into my head.
It could be a closet Christian.
Say it again?
So you could be a closet Christian, maybe.
Right. Maybe I could hide it. And, I spent 5 months, kind of tormented 5 months, going over my life, bit by bit, to see if I had made a mistake, to see if the logic held up, because everything in my life has been about making sense.
Right.
I've always wanted my ideas to make sense,
right.
To not say the kinds of things that you say in a philosophy class, but the minute you leave the class, they don't mean anything.
Right.
And so that experience of going over my life became the basis of the book, and it was 10 years before I wrote it, because I didn't know why anybody would be interested in it. It was, I'm a storyteller. I tell stories about gangsters and shooting and crime and stuff that's inherently interesting. I didn't know why anybody would want to hear about my life, but it started to occur to me over time that kind of everybody was in the situation I was in. Like, everybody is in this default atheist world, a world in which we are told constantly by entertainment, by professors, by the news media, that if you believe in God, you're kind of weird. And if you believe in Jesus, you're a dope. You're not one of us. You're Clem from out in the flyover country.
Now,
and
you mentioned when you were younger in your book, you wanted, kind of talking about some of your logic and how you kind of had this need to make sure everything made sense, even in your dreams. And
even my daydreams.
Even your daydreams, right. And you'd say, even if the dream was kind of a wacky dream, you still needed like the internal logic to work its way out. And
it was.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, it seemed like that was kind of like almost the beginning of, and of course you can always look back 2020 to better understand what happened in the past. But it seems like that was kind of the beginning of you even thinking about or making your way towards Christ.
It definitely was. I mean, and that was kind of the reason I wanted to write the book, was just to say that with just that, the insistence on making sense, you get to God. And that, because when I was coming up, relativism, moral relativism was just becoming the thing. It's what we were taught in school. You were taught that there was no one better moral path and another moral path. It was all opinions, and one culture was as good as another, and so on. And I just, over time, just pure observation gave me to know that was ridiculous, And it takes a long time. It takes a long time to break out of the water. We were surrounded by this kind of culture like it's the air we breathe, and you don't even know you're in it, unless you start to make sure that you make sense, and then suddenly you realize that certain things you're being told just don't work.
One of the things I really appreciate is how you do, and you've already noted this, but in your book you're having to reckon with just how big of a deal it would be to convert. How big of a deal, all the ramifications. You reference, your father, your family, Hollywood, so on. I really like this section in introduction. He said, as a writer, I prided myself on seeing and describing the world as it was, not as I wanted it to, or thought it was supposed to be. I made my living writing hard-boiled fiction about tough, cynical men and femme fatales swept up in ugly underworlds of crime, sex, and murder. Would I suddenly be reduced to penning saccharine fluff about some little girl who lost her pet bunny, but Jesus brought it back again? Oh, God, I prayed fervently more than once. Whatever happens, don't let me become a Christian novelist.
Oh, that's great.
I read that. I thought he understands. Especially,
it really is tough. It's like
I know.
I feel there's a lot of pressure to sort of create Candyland for Christians. That like God is supposed to be God of this perfect world, and people die, and you're not supposed to feel grief because they're going to a better place. And I just don't live in that place at all. I mean, I live in a place where corruption is there every single minute of the day in my own mind and in the world around me.
Right.
People don't talk can hardly get out a sentence anymore without cursing.
Yeah.
I can't create a fake world for Christians to live in that makes them feel good when I'm living in a world that sort of is at odds with everything that's in my heart. I want to create that world so you can see God in that world, not in that kind of, God is not dead, perfect universe.
Yeah.
Now, Andrew, you're a Jew, right?
I'm a Jew, yeah.
Yeah, so when you talk about, kind of finding God, it seems like a lot of times our conception of Jews, especially from the evangelical standpoint, we look at you guys like big brothers in a lot of ways. So, and for some of us, it's hard to imagine that how disconnected you are from, you say you were a relativist at the time, and basically a practical atheist. And a lot of people are hearing that and saying, what? Dude, you're a Jew. You had God's law. You're practicing all the time. What?
But this is very common in the Jewish community. I mean, I grew up. My father, it was very important to my dad that we knew Jewish culture, and we went to Hebrew school, and I was bar mitzvahed. But he didn't really believe in God, and my mother was the most convicted atheist I ever met. I mean, she lived and died just thinking the whole thing was nonsense.
Wow.
And so for me, it just became this kind of empty exercise. Why am I learning Hebrew? Why am I reading the Bible? What sense does that make? It doesn't make any sense. And so I felt it was kind of just this empty house that I was in. And on top of that, and this is something that this is so touching to me because evangelicals in America are the best friends the Jews ever had. But Jews are convinced many Jews, I should say, are convinced that Christians are their enemies. That this history of anti-Semitism that grew up in Europe, in the Middle Ages, sticks. Yeah. And they always feel that to go over to the other side is to defect to the enemy. Very good. That's a very much of a default Jewish position. And I remember I told one Jewish friend, I think I put this in the book, I told one Jewish friend I'd been baptized, and the first thing he said to me was, they'll still kill you.
Oh, man.
We got you now, Andrew. I remember I was at this church one time. This must have been about 10 years ago. And I was looking through their church newspaper. And this is just a bad theology, bad view of the end times kind of a problem here. But there was, I think it was Pat Robinson was on the front of this ad in their newspaper saying, "Help persecuted Jews return to Israel and see biblical prophecy fulfilled."
Oh, yeah.
Basically, you could donate money to help Jews fly home to Israel and fulfill biblical prophecy.
Yep, I remember that.
Which is about like trying to ship African slaves back to Africa, right?
We don't want to go back.
We're good.
We're good.
We're good. Hey, let's put you back in the Middle East and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm having a good time here, but I have to go back to bring on the end times.
Yeah. You can still write for us. That's fine. We'll take your letters and your stories.
Internet works.
Yeah, you're right. You got to email. Why not?
Yeah. So you go ahead, Toby.
I was just going to say, have you found? I mean, so you said this Jewish culture was sort of this empty house, but I mean, so since coming to Christ, have some of those things from your past that never made sense, have they come in handy? Have they kind of clicked for you?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I never felt, I always felt like a cultural Jew. I was a wiseacre.
Sure, right.
I was an urban guy and all this stuff, but only when I found Christ did I suddenly think, oh, I get it. I get what a Jew is. Now I understand in what way I'm a Jew. It just didn't exist before that. I would never have said. If a religious Jew had said to me, "Are you Jewish?" I would never have said just yes in my whole life, And now, when you said to me just now, "Are you a Jew?" I immediately think, "Yeah, that's definitely what I am," and that's because of Christ, not instead.
And is it and for you? I mean, again, coming to Christ, I don't know. There's some sense in which. Of course, one of the things that is so beautiful about the gospel is that, the gospel is for the Jew first. And also the Gentile, but it almost seems like there's this deeper resonance. Not that it's a different salvation or a different Jesus, but just that there's that love of God for His people. Seems like that would just be something that would really be beautiful to you.
I occasionally I'm embarrassed to tell you, I occasionally sit in church thinking, gee, Jesus and I are the only people here who have been bar mitzvah.
That's great.
That's hilarious.
And yeah, it does. And there's even in the way people talk in the Gospels, you can hear that echo of that Jewish slang, that questioning, that kind of dialectic, that love of going back and forth, and the way that logic defeats. Even a Jew who disagrees with you has to retreat in the face of logic.
Yeah.
All that stuff is in the gospel, and it does make me feel very at home. It makes you feel like, oh yeah, I know who these people are.
So I want to tie a big chunk of the book together here real quick. When you were younger, you seem to have a good respect for your dad, but also a very challenging relationship with your dad. And then as you got older, because of it seemed like you kind of tied in some of how your dreams began to kind of consume you a little bit, your daydreaming consumed you a little bit, and how that also grew into kind of, as you got older, you also had kind of a high level of anxiety. It seems like all that was connected, your relationship with your dad, your daydreams, and as you got older, it kind of came back around to basically bring you to the point of suicide.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I think a lot of that, I don't want to blame my dad. It's tough for me to talk about him because he was a good person, people who worked for him loved him. He was really wonderful to my mother. His marriage has been an inspiration to me in my marriage.
Yeah.
He and I just did not get along. I mean, there was something about me that really bugged him. He did not treat me the way he treated my brothers. He was much harsher with me, and he was a professional comedian. And when a professional comedian starts to take you to pieces, even verbally, it's savage stuff. It's like and you're a little kid, so you have no ammunition.
You can't fight humor. Yeah,
that's right. And it gets in your head that you are a bad guy. There's something wrong with you, and even when your father's wrong, you're always, how a guy kind of incorporates his father into himself.
Yeah.
So you're fighting with yourself in the end. He's not even there. You're still fighting with yourself. And that became, a very tormenting thing. He ran me down a lot. He told me I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do, and I would never, get to where I wanted to get to. So even as I was struggling to succeed, I was struggling against myself, and that ultimately just tore me to pieces. Mm-hmm. And it was really sad in a lot of ways because, first of all, I grew up in a nice neighborhood. I had my parents stayed married. My brothers were all nice people. It should have been great. It should have been great, but it was really fraught, and it was really filled with a kind of subtle violence. And I just came to a point where I couldn't move forward anymore. I seriously did not know how to live. I did not know how I could incorporate the pain I felt and the struggle I felt inside myself. And I actually did have that night, I talk about in the book, where I sat there. I had a wife that I have adored now for 40 years, and I adored her then.
Amen.
I had a daughter I adored, and I was literally sitting there thinking they'd be better off without me. When I go back to it in my head, I just want to slap myself. I want to reach back into the past and just slap that guy.
Yeah.
And by the way, one thing that I always try to tell young people is I thought I was in the pit of hell and I was around the corner from home. I was so close to starting to come out of that pit. So close, like yards away from daylight. Yeah. And it just seemed like I was in utter darkness. And that's, one of the things when you open by reading that acknowledgement in the book, one of the things that happened to me when I read the book, and it was really magical, was suddenly when I put it all down on paper, I could see Christ there in all these crises, just like that sentimental thing they talk about with the footprints in the sand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can stuff like that. But
hey, there's your Christian authorship coming out right there in that reference.
It really was like I had to be a knucklehead to miss it when it was happening, but I did miss it when it was happening. I only saw it when I wrote it down.
Yeah. Did your wife later become a Christian too? I didn't read the last chapter of the book, so.
She did, yes. She had, she had been kind of like me, just an agnostic kind of person who would say, "Oh, well, I'd like to believe, but how can you believe that stuff?" And then she had a very dramatic experience. Her mother, after a long illness, died in her arms, and she came home from that. Wow. And she said, I was wrong. I saw the spirit leave. I know there's something else,
Wow.
And so that kind of prepared her for my change. And then she basically came into the church with me.
Wow. I love how you end the introduction. You say, other men are born into their faith and never leave it. I was planted elsewhere and had to find my way. And when my 5-month pilgrimage to the Santa Barbara Hills was done, I came home rejoicing. I was convinced and fully convinced. My mind was God's, my soul was Christ's, my faith was true. It's been a really blessed time to talk to you this afternoon, Andrew.
We need to schedule him for a whole hour.
For real.
I know.
This is not,
I would happily come back again.
Your book is a huge blessing. It's a blessing to the church. It's a blessing to me. I grew up in the church, and
amen.
Praise God. What a blessing. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
This is Cy Timbrunke with Answer Anyone Apologetics. In California in the 1950s, car ownerships were printed on pink paper. Racing for pinks was a drag race in which the loser of the race would forfeit ownership of his car to the winner. Now imagine you were going to have a race for pinks. The first thing you'd want to do is make sure your opponent actually owns the car that he's driving. Let's say you produced your pink slip and asked your opponent to do the same, but he just revved his engine and yelled, "Come on, let's race. What are you afraid of?" Now you might be confident that you'd win that race, but you'd be crazy to race him if you couldn't prove that the car was his. Even crazier if you knew that he'd stolen it. As Christians, we're commanded to engage people with the defense of our faith. Our opponents will come at us with logical, scientific, and moral objections to the existence of God. But who owns logic? Who owns science? Who owns morality? Jesus Christ. In Romans 11:36 we read that from God, through God, and to God are all things. When the unbeliever attempts to engage you, they're doing so with stolen goods, and we let them. Jesus Christ has equipped us with tools for reasoning. Don't let the unbeliever steal them when they want to engage you. Make them account for them. Make them show you their pink slip. For more apologetic answers, visit AnswerAnyone.com.
I don't do that kind of stuff.
I love that track.
Welcome back to Cross Politic, y'all. Andrew Klavan. Man, what
awesome.
What an encouragement.
We got to get him back on the show.
We are.
Bottom line.
Man, I was just blessed by several. I mean, he's an amazing writer, and I'm serious. I mean, like, praise God for saving Andrew Klavan.
Amen.
I couldn't put the book down. I really couldn't.
Yeah.
I was up late last night. I got to the last chapter and I was finally falling asleep.
Yeah.
But it was a great read and just.
I thought it was hilarious that you actually told him you didn't finish the last chapter.
But yeah. So Andrew,
I couldn't put your book down
because
what happened?
It makes for a good interview. Like, what's going to happen? Andrew, tell me.
Nice save. Nice save.
Hold on. So I want to come back to what we were just talking about before.
Yes.
Klavan.
Which was?
You had a question.
I had a question. So you right when closing out the segment, you mentioned that the founders debated slavery and punted.
Right. So in the Constitution, it doesn't actually mention explicitly the institution of slavery, but it mentions indentured servitude. I think that's the word it uses. Is that right?
Yeah, it is indentured servitude.
And then it punts, and it specifically says that we won't deal with this issue until I think it's 1815. I'm pretty sure that's
I can't
the
remember
date.
the dates.
It's like 50 years on or something, or
right.
30 years on or something like that from the signing of the Constitution.
Yeah.
So they're punting that.
But yeah, punting is maybe a strong word.
Okay.
I think what they're trying to do, and this is coming from me, someone who wants slavery to end, but I think what they're trying to do is nation build off indentured servitude. So giving themselves a time frame to continue to build build America off of indentured servitude without abolishing indentured servitude, so that they can have a way to do it without when you don't have money, right? That's what you do.
Yeah, but
right? But so I think, their indentured servitude ran amok.
Yeah.
Right? It ran amok.
Well, I think also the thing that Ellis points out, I forget his first name, maybe it's Joel Ellis, the Founding Brothers, I think is the name of the book.
Okay.
He points out that actually a lot of the Founding Fathers had really good reasons to believe that it was dying out. It was dying out in the North especially. What they didn't count on is for it to blow
be so
up.
big in the South.
It got so big in the South. It was still getting big in the South.
Yeah.
And it was not only going to get big, but it was going to go down deep. It was sort of a thing, but then it became like the thing, or like one of the things that really, I mean, and
it became industry.
That's why I have mixed feelings about what you're saying, though, because building the nation on that.
Well, every nation was built off of some form of slavery.
Yeah, you're
or
right.
indentured servitude.
Yes, but
it doesn't have to be that way.
But
right? I mean, to build a nation means you come over here and you have to work.
I don't have a problem. I think if we had a biblical form of indentured servitude,
but slavery's bad, David.
Slavery is.
Why is the black guy on our show arguing in favor?
No. Slavery, according to the Bible standard, is not bad.
Yeah, the problem is that we had unbiblical slavery.
I need to say this because most people are going to say, "What is the Negro doing talking about?" Slavery is good.
It was unbiblical slavery.
It was unbiblical slavery. There is a form of good biblical slavery that I think can handle a lot of our situation with.
Go ahead.
A lot of our situation right now, what we have with people coming into the country who don't know our customs, who don't know our culture, right? And come into someone who can manage and can have a good stewardship over illegal coming into America. We can actually help. I think that's a good biblical thing to help build the nation, because then the person's responsible for that person. They're also training and teaching that person our customs, and then they're also educating them to move forward to live in our culture.
As a free man.
As a free man.
Chocolate Knox wants to...
it moves towards freedom.
He wants to enslave all the refugees. You guys heard it first here on Cross Politic.
Indentured servitude leads towards freedom, God's biblical way, in nation building. So I don't have a problem with good indentured...
Yeah, so here's the thing. So biblically speaking, the greatest sin, of course, was the fact that our indentured servitude was race-based.
And yes,
right?
and owning someone,
and that it was perpetual
with no end. Yeah,
that's no end, right?
That's right.
And so biblical indentured servitude allowed for temporary servitude, and also always allowed for the ability to buy your freedom.
Yeah, that's right.
And every 7 years, slaves were freed.
Mm-hmm. I can't really think of the guy, but there was a guy. The person who actually started that. Set the standard for was a black man who wanted to own another black man and said, no, he belongs to me. So it wasn't initially that progression of indentured servitude or slavery wasn't started by white people, but they definitely capitalized on it.
Right. And I will, and you are absolutely right. Chuck, just to be clear, I'm teasing you, but
I know.
But you're absolutely right. Indentured servitude is actually inescapable.
Yes.
It always exists.
Yes.
And today we call it welfare.
That's right.
We call it, all right.
And that's a horrible form of indentured servitude.
And in fact, given how much, the fact is the matter is the federal government actually owns basically all the land.
Yeah.
All of us, and owns us. We're all slaves.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you got to pay your taxes or you're going to get kicked off your land.
Well, was it?
You're going to get taken to jail.
There's a documentary called The 13th,
Yep.
Where they talk about that the people that are arrested and spend time in jail, guess who owns them and is using them for slave labor?
Yeah.
The government.
Government, yeah.
Yeah. It's not a biblical form where you're paying
the government
prisons,
and they're pimping them out to
industries and companies.
Our prison system is a modern slave
a clear
system.
modern form, and it's inescapable.
Yeah.
And so and biblically speaking, when someone steals from you, guess what? They owe you something, right?
You are indentured, enslaved to them until you pay it off.
You pay it off. There is a payoff.
But to be clear, of course, the biblical system is you pay it back. You do
Bifold.
restitution,
and you're free.
You pay it back plus 20%.
That's right.
Usually, sometimes a little bit more depending on what it was, and then you're done.
You're done.
Right.
And the only time you would actually do time, so to speak, would be because you're working it off.
That's right. That's it.
There's not that's why our prison system is unjust. Because they're trying to measure, you need to suffer a long time.
Yeah.
It's it's like Roman Catholicism gone bad.
According to what standard?
It's like purgatory.
There's always going to be some form of slavery operating.
Yeah.
The question is, according to what standard?
Yeah.
So,
and it's always, in God's way is the best way.
Absolutely.
It's way better to fall into the hands of God and His word. Because otherwise you've got the machinations of man.
Yeah.
And our standards of justice and our whims we're back to that what's that guy, the floof that we were just listening to a little while ago that's talking to Tucker.
Oh, Zach.
Whatever.
Zach.
Petkinson?
Floofy Zach.
Zach Loser.
Zach.
All right.
Zach.
Gabe is so
Man.
I've not seen him this upset about somebody.
He annoyed me so much. Like, you can't follow an argument, dude.
Yeah.
But that's tyranny.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? It's
absolutely.
tyranny to be ruled by somebody who says, I'll be whatever I want.
So
truth is whatever I want.
Ooh,
so,
man.
Tyranny.
That's a great point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever I want. So I'm a man, I'm a woman.
I have a listener. We have one of our listeners sent us a memo that kind of actually plays a little bit into this.
Hey, this is Kaylin from Bristow, Oklahoma. Just wanted to say I've been enjoying this show, and I have a quick question. Every year, I don't make a whole lot of money, and I have 3 children, and so I get tax money back called Earned Income Credit. It is not my money. So I wanted to see what you guys would say as far as a biblical worldview to do with that money, or what should be done. Just wanted your thoughts on that. Thanks. Have a good one.
I want to punt.
Thanks, Kaylin, for the call.
Didn't you just say that punting was bad? And we're not playing football. Come on, man.
I'm shaking my head.
All right, so the situation is he's got a family, he's got 3 kids, he's got tax deductions, right?
Yep.
And he gets more money back than he pays in taxes. Is what he's saying. He gets earned income tax credit back.
So they give him extra money.
Someone else's money.
Right. That
our government stole.
But here's the problem. I don't mind him doing whatever he wants with the money. If he has a conscience about it, give it, donate it, give it to charity, because it's not to him. It becomes not about the money. It becomes about the principle. That's fine.
Right.
But I because we're taxed in so many different angles and so many different ways. At this point, the government is stealing from us. Because of our current tax structure and system, the government is stealing from us. So I don't have a problem the government paying me back what they owe me.
Well, they probably owe him a lot more than whatever it was.
Absolutely, right? Because you get income tax, you get sales tax, you get property tax, you get everything that you buy, smoke, breathe, eat, restaurants. I mean, it's all tax.
The system's rigged.
Yeah.
The system's rigged. So it's hard to know actually how much he really deserves back, right? From that they've taken from him.
That's what's messed up.
Right.
So,
but this goes back into the slave mentality.
I know.
We need to first think like Christian.
Right.
First, try to think like a free man, which is very hard for us in our society.
Right.
And then kind of operate to the best of your ability after conscience.
I think, and I would say, first of all, and I think you start by just asking the question that, what's his name?
Kaylin,
thanks for asking the question. It's a good question. And I think more Christians just need to ask that question. Recognize.
That's right. You need to be thinking about this.
Because I think so many Christians just think, I deserve whatever I've got coming to me. Mm-hmm. Right?
Free college.
You owe me. Right? It's tax season, so I get refunds, I get credits, I get it. You owe it to me. No, they don't owe it to you.
Well, they could be thinking, Massa, I've been good.
Right, but
I've been good, and so you.
Thanks for that small penance of a refund.
You owe me a little something, master, for for payday. A little extra beans.
But you got to recognize that the government is paying us to be good.
Yeah.
Right. They're paying us to be quiet and be good.
And this
buy yourself a new TV.
Here's, you remember George Bush's $1,500 or $1,200?
Go get yourself
stimulus?
a new rifle. Hey, be nice, be good.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I think you live in a system that you live in, and is it sinful for Daniel in Babylon to take the tax credit? No.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that you're in sin, but I think that the question is what are we going to do? We live in a system that's messed up. Where there's all kinds of corruption, we are overtaxed.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be taking steps to at least be thinking biblically about it. And I think that's got to translate into some practical steps where you don't just say that's my money.
Yeah, but let's worry about it from his perspective, since I think that we can only operate in where we have rule over.
Yeah.
This is a direct area he has rule over to do something with this money.
Right.
So he gets this money. And he's feeling to himself, he already said it. He knows what to do. Anybody who said it's not my money, your conscience already is functioning.
Yeah. So for several years, early on in my marriage, I didn't take the money.
And then you got a bunch more kids. And you're like,
no. So I didn't. I intentionally didn't fill it out. That section in the tax for several years. I took back the money, my refund, and I didn't take the extra credit stuff.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I don't know what happened in the system, but I still did that, and they would send it to me anyways.
No way. So they would
say, "Oh, you made a mistake.
Here's your money.
You're owed, another $1,000 or whatever.
Don't you want it?"
So what I've done for a number of years is I do a double tithe on it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I do. So I tithe, a 20%, sometimes more, but that's what I've typically done. Do a double tithe on it. As just a way for myself, it's a mental note to me that I don't think this is the best way to be doing things.
Yeah.
But I live in this world, I live in this system, and again, I wouldn't bind somebody's conscience with that. That's just what I've done.
Well, let me
but it's been a way for me to just mentally note, I want this. I want to do something. I want to bless the work of the kingdom. God. It's sort of a way of me just lifting this up to the Lord and saying, you see me, you know that I'm not grasping.
Yeah, well, I think part of what you're getting at here is you're getting at saying, do not be dependent on the government's either faux generosity or whatever it is, or be dependent on the government refund, or be dependent on the tax payer unearned income credit.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have a problem taking that, but I on the other hand would have a problem with, let's say, sending my kids to public school and expecting everyone to be paying for my kids' education.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point.
So how do I sort through? Okay, I'm going to get the money regardless. When Bush sent out the stimulus check to everybody, I was like, he's going to send it no matter what. I can't say no to it.
Well, you can.
No, you can't. You're going to get it.
You could rip it up.
You could rip it up. That's about all you can do.
That's saying no.
But it's still there, right? The money's still there.
But you didn't touch it.
No. But the point is
filthy lucre. Oh, man. It's filthy lucre.
You didn't touch that ark.
Man, you guys are messing me up.
You didn't. That ark fell and hit the dirt, but you ain't touch it. You don't have to grab it.
You're saying stimulus is the ark? Is the holy ark?
Come out from among them.
Well, you know what? Look, I'm going to tell you, if my conscience is bothered by it, I know that when I give money to my church and I'm giving my offering, I've had a friend say, well, acknowledging that before the government allows them to give you more money so that you can give to your church in the same way.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I get that. But if I'm not being consistent in other things, first of all, I want to try in those areas first. Like if you're sending your kids to public school and you're trying to figure out what to do with government money, you've already lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So the first thing I want to do is I want to shore up the areas where I see that I think that Joel McDermott was talking about this too.
Yeah.
Where are the areas?
Even library fees.
Right? I want to be as consistent as I possibly can. If I'm going to start here where the government's giving me money, what other areas can I start cutting off and actually paying for myself and not helping the system, right? Yeah. So if we're going to be consistent here, let's start across the board. Okay, No government schools. Okay, how do I pay for access to this? Okay, am I paying for this?
Obamacare.
Obamacare. That's a tough
That's
one.
Huge.
That's a tough one.
Huge.
That's very huge.
Yeah.
And it looks like some of that stuff it might be going away. Let's hope. But so I think what we want to do is we want to be consistent across the board. And then when this issue comes up, it's like, well, I've been doing this consistently already.
Right. And I think a big part of this is we have got to study our Bibles.
Yes.
Because again, back to it's either God's way or it's man's way.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, he doesn't want to be stealing.
Man's way is tyranny. God's way is freedom.
Yeah.
Where the Spirit of God is, there's freedom.
That's right.
And that means we have got to go back to school. We need to know our Bibles.
That's
and there's far more there than we think.
Yeah.
Right. For too long we've been saying it's just, ask Jesus into your heart.
Oh, right.
And that's it.
That's
all the discipleship you get.
Stop and be nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? And be nice. But it's like that's not wisdom. Right? We have 66 books of God's word. And the training that God gave his people in the old covenant is training for us. Mm-hmm. It's training for us.
Yeah.
It doesn't all apply in a one-for-one way, but it's wisdom for us. Yeah. And we need to know what that wisdom is. We need to know how to deal with our money faithfully, how to deal with our government faithfully, all these things, and we need to know God's word.
Real quick, keep it, give it away.
Keep it, give it away.
What would you do with the money?
Well, what I'm doing currently, what my practice has been is I do that double tithe. And so I give that away, and then I use the other stuff the best I can.
Gabe, keep it, give it away.
Yeah, I'd keep it and just use it to best of my ability and tithe it like Toby did. And I've done it. I've usually tithed it and then also found a charity or some sort of Christian school situation to give it to, something like that. So.
I think I'm moving towards don't touch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't need reparations?
No, I don't. No, but if somebody wants to give me 10 acres and a dog, I'll take it. I'll take 10 acres and a dog. 10 acres and a dog. That's somebody giving it to me.
Right.
And reparations is not the same thing. Just so you know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So.
Yeah. So lastly, we had one of our listeners from Alabama. I just want to close this out with this last. From Alabama, and they're pushing a proposition, not a proposition, but they're pushing an executive order that they want the governor to sign in Alabama, I think called Prop 16.
I haven't heard.
You guys have to Google it. I lost his contact info and the links he sent me, but it's in Alabama, and there's a big movement right now to get the governor basically to honor what's going on, like same thing going on in Arizona, to honor the current abortion laws in Alabama. And I just want our listeners to know about that. If there's any way you can support them.
If you're in Alabama,
if there's any way you can support them, get the word out and everything. There's a real powerful opportunity, good, strong movement going on in Alabama right now.
So be praying for them, and if you can support them, definitely go do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's good. It's been really good
Great
to be back.
have you back, brother.
Yeah.
Love you, man.
Thanks for playing that special music for me at the beginning, Chuck.
Welcome back.
I feel really special.
This is Cross Politic. Until next week, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast.